Today was supposed to be the start of a brand new series I wanted to title Makeup and Politics. But bitch, I am no Palestinian. There is no way in hell I would be able to pull off doing two things at once with my mental state. So essentially what you're going to have to deal with is me sitting in a slightly different environment talking about a political figure, and hopefully you enjoy it. Initially, I thought of making today's video about Vladimir Putin, but then I realized that there's nothing I could possibly say that hasn't already been said about good old Vladik. I mean, the guy was a KGB member who then became the Prime Minister of Russia, who then replaced Boris Yeltsin as President of Russia in 1999, served as President from 1999 up until 2008, allowed Dmitry Medvedev to be President from 2008 till 2012, returned back to power and hasn't left ever since then. Other than that, people from the Western left dislike Putin because of his authoritarian regime over Russia, while people on the Western right actually like him because of that reason, apparently. Or maybe they like him because Daddy Trump cozies up with him. I don't know. It could be anything. So I realized there's nothing I could really bring to the table other than the information I just provided you with about Putin. But what I could talk about is his direct political opponent, Aleksei Navalny. When it comes to Navalny, oh my god, there's so much I can say. And that's why you have this video you're going to have to put up with. So, Aleksei Navalny, let's talk about him. So, Aleksei Navalny is a former lawyer, anti-corruption activist, and a Russian opposition leader. When Navalny was getting his degree in economics, he joined this political party called Yabloko, which was an opposition party at the time. It pushed for liberal values and a free market economy. Initially, political parties like Yabloko did have some sway in the Russian parliament. However, that was very short-lived because pro-Putin parties ended up unifying, and it completely diminished any kind of influence opposition parties had over the Russian public. During his time at Yabloko, Navalny gained the position of local leadership, but he was expelled from the party in 2007 for engaging in nationalistic activities. Navalny, like any other politician, denied the accusations and said that the reason why he was expelled was because he had disagreements with the leader of the party. But Navalny has his own fair share of cozying up with nationalists that I'm going to get into later on in this video. After his departure from Yabloko, Navalny ended up forming his own political party called Narod, which translates to the people, and it also serves as an acronym for the National Russian Liberation Movement. In addition to that, Navalny also started engaging in his own fair share of anti-corruption activism. He did this in a very clever yet shrewd manner, which I personally admire. The way he did it was by purchasing shares of small state-owned companies, which then ended up granting him access to financial records. With his access to these financial records, he started auditing them, going through them, and finding discrepancies. Once he found discrepancies, he questioned the people who worked in the companies about them, asking them, where's the money going? What's going on? And when they couldn't answer his questions, he did what he does best. He went to the public. Navalny documented his findings in a blog post that became so popular that even the president at the time, Dmitry Medvedev, had to respond to it. According to Medvedev, 1 trillion rubles, which is approximately $31 billion, was embezzled from state procurement funds. Because Alexei Navalny's blog post contained evidence to back up his accusations, he managed to garner an online following of people that trusted him. This helped him create his own whistleblowing website called Rospol. So Rospol publicized contracts that were awarded corruptly. In addition to that, Navalny also made it possible for users on Rospol to anonymously post about their findings of corruption in Russia. Within just 6 months of running his whistleblowing site, Navalny managed to garner 1 million views per month, which was a lot for the time. He used this to his advantage and ended up coining the term the party of crooks and thieves when referring to Putin's United Russia party that is still to this date used as a chant during anti-establishment protests. In 2011, Russia experienced its biggest protests since the fall of the Soviet Union. Over 50,000 people had surrounded near the Kremlin to protest against ballot rigging during the parliamentary elections and demanded a rerun. During these elections, Navalny had urged his followers to support anybody but Putin's party. Despite all the hoopla, Putin still won, and Navalny was jailed for 15 days for participating in an unauthorized protest. But this wouldn't be Aleksei Navalny's last encounter with. After Putin officially returned back to power in 2012 and Navalny was jailed for 15 days, he ended up clamping down on those who spoke up against him or his party. As a result of this, many opposition leaders, including Navalny, got their houses raided, and Navalny was charged with suspicion of engaging in corruption. Irony at its peak, I know. Putin also enforced harsher penalties against those that engaged in unauthorized protests. This was the beginning of the end for Russia, I swear. Jeez Louise. Despite all of this, Navalny did not back down. In fact, in 2013, he stated that he's running for mayor of Moscow. The day after he announced that he's running for mayor, he was found guilty for embezzlement in a politically motivated trial and was sentenced to 5 years. And Navalny's unjust arrest resulted in protests breaking loose by his supporters, and as a result of that, they just set him free. Yep, he was a free man just the next day. I mean, if I were in his place, I'd probably never want to be in Russia after spending even a night in a Russian jail, let alone talk about Russian politics. But Navalny decided that, okay, this is great. Time to continue running for mayor. And he did just that. He did that, but he ended up coming second place. Navalny's unexpected strong performance in the mayoral elections served as a driving force of some sort for Putin's implementation of his managed democracy policy, which is essentially the idea that the Russian people actually have a say in their votes when in reality they don't. 2016 legislative election, Putin's United Russia party won yet again. Surprise, surprise. But onlookers stated that they noticed discrepancies such as ballot stuffing and repeat voting. I'm not even going to mention what happened to Navalny in this whole election because he was disqualified and wasn't even allowed to participate. So, irrelevant. What I do want to address, however, is Navalny's past and his controversies, because while he might seem like a swell guy to my libby libs from the West, my brother has straight up engaged in some severe nationalism and xenophobia, and that needs to be addressed. So without further ado, let's get into that. This video is sponsored by CD Keys. Guys, are you a simmer like me, or do you like to play any kinds of video games, be it on PC or console, and you're looking for good deals? Well, then you should go check out CD Keys, because bruh, I literally got The Sims 4 Growing Together for 65% off. That game released like, I don't know, a couple of months ago. You can literally get Sims 3 games for like 2 to 3 euros. Like, it's freaking heaven, bro. Like, go check it out. Use the link in my bio. That way, not only are you able to get a video game of your choice or two, but you're also supporting me. So, yes. Thank you, CD Keys, for sponsoring this video. Now, if there's one thing I genuinely hate, that is the term the better of two evils when having to describe a politician. I first heard it during the 2016 election between Trump and Hillary Clinton, where people were like, yeah, well, Trump kind of sucks, but like he's better than Hillary, or like Hillary kind of sucks, but she's better, but at least she's not Trump. Like, why can't we have a good candidate? Why do we have to like choose somebody that's slightly less fucked up than the other? But Navalny is just that. I mean, on one hand, he's an anti-corruptionist who sticks it up to the higher-ups and he defends the working class. But on the other hand, he's kind of like 2016 Donald Trump on steroids. So let's start with a video that was sent to me in 2020 by my Azerbaijani followers when I went onto Instagram and stated that I support Navalny.
Никто из нас не застрахован от того, что в наш дом заползет таракан. Фу, ну или в форточку залетит муха. Все мы знаем, что от мух отлично помогает мухобойка, а от тараканов – тапка. Но что делать, если таракан окажется слишком велик, а муха не в меру агрессивна? Ну а в этом случае я рекомендую пистолет.
Now, if somebody was already viewing Navalny as a nationalist, they'd interpret this video as him referring to Chechens and Muslims as cockroaches and flies that can only be taken out using a gun rather than a fly swatter and slippers. But context matters here. I know, like, hear me out, okay, hear me out. Alexei made the video in a time where the Chechen was very, very relevant in Russia. He made the video in response to the Beslan school siege that happened, in which over 1,000 people were held hostage for 2 days by terrorists. And out of those 1,100 people, 333 individuals lost their lives, and 186 of those individuals happened to be kids. The video was also made in response to 2 plane crashes that resulted from Chechen insurgents hijacking the planes and basically bombing it, which resulted in the inevitable deaths of 90 people. In addition to that, the whole moral of the video was to promote people's rights to bear arms. Do I personally agree with it? No. Do I think that the video could be misinterpreted? Of course it could. But guys, if you want to call out Aleksei Navalny for engaging in bigotry, at least do it right. Let me show you how.
Эти кариозные монстры называют себя националистами, однако клиническая картина понятна даже не специалистам. Бить никого не надо. Все, что нам мешает, должно аккуратно, но твердо удаляться путем депортации. Мы имеем право быть русскими в России, и мы защитим это право.
Now that's some shit that people can actually hold against you. You can't say things like that in this day and age. Not even back then. You'd still be called a freaking nationalist. What was he even thinking? And if that wasn't bad enough, Aleksei Navalny attended nationalist marches. Not once, not twice, but a total of 3 times in 2011 alone. During these rallies, there were heads spotted, and they were freestyling their way to glory, bro. Like, oh my god. But to his credit, he always owned up to his affiliation with these right-wingers. In an interview, he said the following: "The basis of my approach is that you have to communicate with nationalists and educate them. I think it's very important to explain to them that the problem of illegal immigration is not solved by beating up migrants, but by other democratic means." But does this mean that I agree with his statement? Fuck no. Do I look like Kamala Harris to you to be like a freaking populist? Like, no. Nuh-uh. It's a cop-out in my opinion, and I doubt a bunch of Z-filers are going to freaking change their ways if Putin is not their president anymore. Remember, they're Nazis not because of Putin. They're Nazis because they're freaking Nazis. Like, Russia is such a big country. There's so many people. Go and educate people in the rural areas. Why the fuck are you only going to these white supremacists? Are you dumb? Like, that's something like after World War II, everyone knows that you shouldn't be freaking associating with white supremacists. That's like a no-brainer, especially if you're from Russia, bro. Like, I can't bashvada. Like, what the fuck do I say? Oh, and he also pushed for Russian aggression in Georgia. And in 2013, when he actually ran for mayor of Moscow, one of the fundamental things he pushed for were harsher immigration laws against Central Asians. He then apologized for his sentiments against Georgia, but he never said sorry for what he did against the Caucasians and Central Asians when he referred to them as freaking cavities and pushed for harsher immigration laws against Central Asians. Like, bro, all of these countries were colonized by your country. The least you can do is let the people enter without visas. And that goes for the UK as well. Where's my visa? Huh? Where's my visa? But anyways, let's flash forward to 2020. In 2020, Aleksei Navalny was campaigning for a regional election in Siberia that was scheduled to happen in September that year. However, on the 20th of August, he felt severely ill on a flight back home from Tomsk to Moscow, and that demanded an emergency landing. As soon as the flight landed, they rushed him to the hospital in Russia, but because his wife was extremely afraid of him being under the care of Russian doctors, because God knows what they could actually do to him, considering him already being a person of interest, she demanded that he be released and they fly him down to Europe. Thankfully, they were granted that permission, and Navalny managed to continue the rest of his treatment in Berlin, Germany. When receiving care in Berlin, it was revealed that Novichok, a nerve agent developed by the Soviets, was found in Navalny's bloodstream. The guy had been poisoned, allegedly. The Kremlin denies association with the poisoning of Navalny, but this wouldn't be the first time that critics of Putin would be forced to see the white light, you know. In fact, Vladimir was even asked about his association with the attempt on Navalny's life when he said this.
Но это совсем не значит, что его травить нужно. Кому он нужен-то? Понимаете? Если бы хотели, наверное, довели бы до конца. А так, жена ко мне обратилась, я тут же дал команду выпустить его на лечение в Германию. Ну вот в эту же секунду.
I mean... So, while Navalny was recovering in Germany, he worked alongside an investigative journalist from Bellingcat called Christo Groziev. Groziev and his team found some of the people who were involved in the alleged attempt on Navalny's life. And in a very strange turn of events, Navalny actually sat down with Groziev and he called the people involved in his assassination. 2 were failed attempts, but the third person straight up confessed. Obviously, Navalny didn't reveal his own identity. He said that he's working alongside the Kremlin and he's writing a report and he needs to report to them as to why did the assassination attempt fail. And the guy just straight up said that the reason it failed was because they had to have an emergency landing and Navalny received the medical care that he needed. If he wouldn't have, it would have gone through. Like, bro, when I seen that back in 2020, I was like, imagine talking to somebody who was involved in trying to you and them confessing on the phone. Like, obviously the Kremlin still denies this and they say that no, we had nothing to do with this. This is Navalny creating like a fake story. He asked someone to call him and la 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 la. But guys, that could be the case. I'm not going to completely deny that it could happen. But come on, who are we talking about here? Like, who are we talking about here? Huh? Joe Biden? Huh? Obama? No. So, after Navalny fully recovered, he decided to return back to Mother Russia. To like face the music. And as soon as he landed, he was arrested and sentenced to 3 years. The reason for this was because prison authorities stated that when he was hospitalized in Germany, he failed to report to the authorities that he was seeking medical care out there, and that constituted as a violation to his previous sentence. So inside he goes. And obviously a lot of protests broke out as a result of this. Guys, I shit you not. In 2021, when I watched Navalny getting sentenced, as it was happening, because it was all over the internet, you bet your ass that my post-Soviet ass cried my freaking eyes out. I still get really, like, I know he's had like a questionable past and everything, but again, the better of two evils. He was literally the only hope they had to freedom. Not only them, but the entire region, bro. That's why anytime an opposing politician runs for office and gets some kind of traction in any region, any post-Soviet country, you bet your ass that I will be one to side with them. I don't care what their past is like. These are countries plagued with authoritarianism. There's no good way of putting it. Whether there's development, whether there's there's nice buildings and brands and everything and concerts, at the end of the day, they're authoritarian states. All of them. Almost all of them. Some of them did manage to gain democracy like Kazakhstan, Armenia, Ukraine. Many of the others are still chilling in the backdrop, and that's not good. So obviously, I was like, when this whole thing happened with Navalny, I was really heartbroken. Like it was tragic seeing that. But it gets worse. While in prison on the 31st of March 2021, Navalny actually managed to take to Twitter and stated that he's going to be going on a hunger strike. That hunger strike lasted for 3 weeks. And this made his followers take to the streets yet again. And in a blatant act of censorship, which isn't uncommon for the Russian government, they deemed everybody who sides with Aleksei Navalny as an extremist group. In addition to that, they got Navalny's smart voting app removed from the App Store and the Google Play Store. So nobody could vote for Navalny whatsoever. Not only was he already disqualified, but even if they wanted to create something for him and make sure that he could still try to run for something, freaking, I don't know, fucking city councillor, they'd be like, vote тебя. And in March last year, 1 month into Putin's disgusting invasion of Ukraine, Navalny was found guilty of 2 more charges that included fraud and contempt of court that ended up adding 9 more years to his pre-existing sentence. Navalny currently serves time in solitary confinement in a maximum security prison that is 240 kilometers away from Moscow. Maximum security prison. Those are the kinds of places you put freaking serial killers in. Not Aleksei Navalny. I mean, for Putin, he might be like equally as scary, but like. But in all seriousness, this is what Aleksei Navalny looks like now. My feelings about this man are really, really mixed. On one side, I admire his perseverance and I really look up to his politics because it's anti-corruptionist, he looks out for the poor people, and he's not afraid of anything. And those are the kinds of people we need in post-Soviet countries, because political discourse is not something that's very normalized, because oftentimes people are scared of it. But it shouldn't be something we're afraid of, and this is why I started this whole series on my channel. I want to be able to talk about politics freely, because it's not a bad word, it's not something we should be scared of, and it's not something that should silence us. And when it comes to Navalny's politics, as I said, I appreciate a lot of things, but then I also don't appreciate the racist things that he has said in the past, especially as somebody that grew up amongst Azerbaijanis. Like, that shit hurts. Like, don't fucking say that. And I know what it's like for Russians to talk down at my friends from post-Soviet countries, be it Azerbaijan or Kazakhstan. It's fucking sick. But irrespective of that, as I said, better of two evils. What are my final thoughts on Navalny other than that? I don't know. I'm just like 25% Russian. I can't say anything. Okay, bye.